Hello, Midland Christian family, and welcome to the MCS podcast, telling the story of Midland Christian School, past, present, and future. Well, hello, friends, and welcome back into the studio here on a beautiful day at Midland Christian School. Pleased to be joined, final time this year, by Dr. Anderson. Dr. Anderson, thank you so much for carving out some time here. It's a busy season on campus as we wrap up all the things. So much hustle and bustle and all good things as we finish up finals, and there are kindergarten parties and graduations and parades and all sorts of things to celebrate as we really, as a community, sit and reflect on what 24-25 has been. And all that I can say from our perspective is God is good. And all the challenges that we've faced, part of the growth process here at Midland Christian, and the triumphs that we've had in all kinds of areas. I guess as we start today, what are some of your just general reflections on the school year as it is and as it has been, and your perspective as we close this chapter?
Yeah, thanks, Trent. I appreciate you having me in for a conversation today. I've really enjoyed these conversations. Look forward to more over the summer and this next school year. So, it has been a challenging year, obviously, for many reasons. I think anytime the United States goes through an election cycle, that presents quite a bit of interesting dynamics, as we tend to be very polarized when those kinds of things happen. But the good news is we made it through that election. We got into our school year and just had so many great things that happened, whether that was academic improvement. We saw incredible athletic excellence on the field this year. Our fine arts experienced major home runs. We grew in our STEM capabilities and our competitions through PSIA and robotics and drones. And I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And so it was a wonderful year in so many ways. It was challenging, of course. We had some things that happened that really, I think, sent us to our knees in prayer this year. But to see how the Midland Christian family responded, even in moments of crisis, is a real testimony to our core, our DNA, that being our faith in God and our trust in Jesus. And so to watch that was humbling, but it was also very encouraging to see so many, even from our little bitties all the way up to our long timers here at Midland Christian, join together in prayer, focus in the Word, supporting one another, encouraging one another, all to the Lord's glory and honor.
Yes, sir. We were able to sit down with Laura Eves and talk last week about just the growth of the elementary school and that campus specifically. And she just mentioned the entire community and what a blessing it is, this pre-K through 12 campus that we sit on, and we're able to see so much growth. And we were talking just recently at softball about the Henderson Cup. And how we Midland Christian is right at the top of the standings in the Henderson Cup, which is a measure of all facets of a school: academics, fine arts, athletics. And so to be competing at the top of that list really reflects well on all of the all the program directors and coaches and teachers who have really pushed our students this year. And of course, we don't strive for a perfect year. Right. That's never the goal, but we strive to chase the one who is perfect. Absolutely. As we move through the seasons. And so it has been just a very moving year, just in terms of our students and their growth. And as we move forward into the summer and next year, I look forward to continuing this conversation of our ideal graduate profile and what are our goals. We've talked through the first three pillars of that academic academic preparedness, the Christ-likeness, the being relationship driven, and now we land on this final pillar of emotional intelligence. And I have to tell you, on the front end, as we started to introduce this to our staff, that one kind of stuck out to me. One of these seemed to me to be not like the others. Right. But once you start to dig down into the characteristics of emotional intelligence, it was, I heard a lot of people say that's it. That's it. That's what we're looking for. So I'm excited to unpack that standard, that pillar that we are striving for in our students. So I guess just walk me through emotional intelligence and how it displays itself here on campus.
I first was introduced to emotional intelligence. It's probably been about 15 years ago, I guess, when I was working as a consultant in local government circles. And so I read Daniel Goleman's book on emotional intelligence and was just immediately drawn in. I was like, wow, this just provides a vocabulary for a lot of things that have been running through my head and through my heart. And so I've done quite a bit of self-work in the realm of emotional intelligence. At least I've tried. Not sure how successful I've been. But I've also done a lot of work training others on maximizing emotional intelligence. There are lots of different resources out there. Daniel Goleman he didn't coin the term emotional intelligence, but he did popularize it. And that was several years ago now. But there are many other authors, many other think tanks, assessments out there that really can help people grow in their emotional intelligence. Some organizations boil it down to 2 to 3 primary characteristics. Others will have 5, 6, possibly 7 or more. But there are 2 aspects of emotional intelligence that are really important to me personally. And the first is self-awareness. The second is others' awareness. And I think if I could pray any prayer for the world today, apart from the primary prayer that all humanity would come to know Jesus as Lord. But beyond that, I would pray for incredible growth, incredible deepening, and self-awareness and others' awareness. We see symptomatically how we're losing self-awareness and even others' awareness, I think, as we've become more secular as a culture. And secular is just a term that means not religious, so we're no longer putting faith, at least not in the way that we used to as a culture. We're not collectively putting faith in God. And it's impacting awareness of self. Because if I am my highest self, if it's just all about me as an individual, then I basically become God of my own life. And if I am God of my own life, then who are you to tell me what to do, how I should think, what I should say? And so there is a freedom these days. It's actually become a disturbing freedom that I can say whatever I want, to whoever I want, however I want, and there are no consequences to that. And this generation of students, the students who are graduating from high school in the last year or so, and who are graduating right now and will be for the next several years, have never taken a breath without that being really part of who we are as a culture. And so I hope and I pray that Midland Christian School will be about helping our students understand, and not just our students, our parents and our faculty and our staff, that, hey, wait a minute, I'm not the God of my life. There is a God who sent his son Jesus to this earth, and I bring myself under his lordship. So my self-awareness as a follower of Jesus, it's not about what makes me whole, what makes me feel good about self, what makes me realize the authentic self that I was put on this earth to be. It's about the God self. It's about who am I in Christ. And knowing that then dramatically impacts how I interact with others. So case in point, we've lost even the basic ability just to be civil with one another. So if I disagree with you, I attack you. And then we have to de-escalate emotionally before we can get to the place of conversation. Maybe there's always been a piece of that flares every once in a while, but I don't think it was that way, years and years ago. Certainly was not that way when I was a child. Emotional intelligence helps us understand, hey, we have a problem here. And I'm feeling emotion. I'm feeling perhaps profound joy on the one extreme. How do I express that? Or profound anger or sadness on the other extreme. How do I process that? If I can bring that to conscious awareness, then you and I can sit down, even if we strongly disagree with one another, but we can talk through it. And so I think if we just would maybe take a look in the mirror, what am I posting online? Is it life-giving or is it destructive? What are my conversations like? Are they God-honoring? Are they meaningful? Or am I mostly just talking down about people or situations? Am I seeing opportunities to make the world a better place? Or am I just going to do nothing but launch verbal hand grenades and argue with you and talk down about you and say things about you behind your back that I wouldn't say to your face? And so again, symptomatically, I think it's hopefully prayerfully time for a wake-up call for us as a culture. And if we at Midland Christian School can be a catalyst for that reawakening, it's like, no, even if we disagree, we love each other more than we love the disagreement. We love each other more than we love the argument. And we know that emotionally intelligent people respond differently than those who are just living some surface level lifestyle that, hey, my emotions are tied to whichever way the winds are blowing today. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, and I would agree. You know, I think anybody that kind of takes a step back and looks at our culture, you know, broad is the way that leads to destruction.
Yes.
And I think that, you know, I think anybody living it on default, and I know like there's been times in my life where I've just been, you know, yeah, this is what everybody else is doing. This is kind of the culture of the time or of the moment or of the location. But I think even with that is an opportunity. You know, I've heard different authors talk about the fragrance of Christ.
Yes.
And what an aroma that we could be as a campus. I even look at some of our students and think, man, that's really appealing.
Yeah.
The way that they are, you know, moving through their career as a high school student even. Because they are others focused, because they haven't placed themselves on the throne. And I think when that happens, it does become very attractive. And so maybe, you know, I think many, and maybe my generation and older generations, mourn the loss of, you know, religion or our faith being, you know, a pillar of our country, you know, of our nation. But those things change.
Yes.
Those things move. And maybe what we're called to as Christians is just to be ready for the moment, whatever it is.
Right.
And I think maybe that there's an opportunity in this moment to be something entirely different. I do feel like we've had maybe a false sense of security as a culture, as a Christian culture, that, okay, we are Christian and everything's good. But we are maybe moving into a period where we can really be movers and shakers for Christ. So what are some of the practical applications of our maybe a collective emotional intelligence, maybe as it pertains to a specific school year or some of those situations?
Yeah. So, you know, our theme this year was to really put the us in Mustangs. And so it's really that I'm thinking about the collective. I'm thinking about how my life, when it intersects with the lives of others, how can I make those lives more enriched, whether it's theirs or whether it's mine? And when I use the term enriched, I really mean in ways that bring ultimately glory to the Lord. You know, I know there have been multiple times that I've been in conversation with an individual who feels like they've been bullied or put down, or, you know, they're on the receiving end of being made fun of or picked on. And you know, fortunately, I'm in fewer of those conversations than I am in conversations that are really, really life-giving and meaningful. But if there could be an awakening inside of each one of us who are part of the Midland Christian family, that, hey, every person in our sphere of influence is a gift of this world, a gift by God himself. And that person is precious to the Lord. And so what can I do in partnership with God as his image bearer on this earth to bless others versus tear down others? And this is not a new phenomenon. I mean, the Apostle Paul talked over and over and over in his letters about encouraging one another, strengthening one another, building one another up. So that's been around ever since humankind's been on the planet. But I do think as societies ebb and flow, we would believe we have a true north, and that true north is in Jesus. But there are fewer people in our culture who are believing that, at least statistically speaking. That's what we're hearing. And I think anecdotally, it's pretty easy to prove that's what we're seeing, that I may hold very, very dearly to the cross, but it doesn't mean people within my sphere of influence are led by that same motivation. So I have to be sensitive to that, but I also have to not give up. And so be steadfast in that truth without, it's an incredible balancing act, Trent. It's like be steadfast in that truth without coming across as self-righteous, so there's great humility and great love. And so that's just part of it in our day-to-day living. But even as a school, and I brought a handful of notes here with me, some of the pillars that we described when we rolled out our ideal graduate profile was that our students are trustworthy. I really mourn that as school administrators, and this is happening all over the nation, that we have to put preventative measures in place related to cheating, for example, on a test. And now with artificial intelligence just sweeping across the landscape like a raging wildfire, that, students are defaulting to, hey, here's a shortcut. And so I think as a school, if we can help partner with parents, if we can help partner with students to be able to really open eyes to the fact that, yeah, there are shortcuts out there that could make your life easier. Yeah, there are shortcuts out there that might get you the A. But just because you see a shortcut doesn't mean that it's wise to take it. Engaging in the critical thought process, studying for the test, maybe failing the test, is actually a more honorable pathway if you're applying yourself versus taking the shortcut and letting somebody else do the work for you. And I was talking with some students recently, and I told some of our students, I said, I would actually hold you in higher esteem if I knew that you failed a test, but the reason you failed that test was just because, you didn't have time to study, and you're honest about that. Because now we can have a conversation about, okay, well, let's talk about study habits. Let's talk about study patterns versus, yeah, I used ChatGPT and I got busted. There's just that trustworthiness is a critical component of emotional intelligence. And the same thing would be true for faculty and staff and parents, our board, me, all of us should be able to look at one another and make a promise, shake hands on that promise, and then that promise should be fulfilled, to the best of our ability. But it's a tough time right now, even in universities. I was just doing some reading earlier this morning that we have students in various universities across the country right now who are basically at that point. They've relied on artificial intelligence for so long now. It's like, well, why would I not use it? I'm almost entitled to be able to go find these answers this way. And so it's a big deal, and one that we're going to be having some conversations about for a long time to come. And we're really, really going to need our moms and dads to partner with us on that one for sure.
Yeah, sure. I sure hope that my surgeon is not ChatGPT.
Exactly.
Steps to open heart surgery.
Yes.
But no, and I know it's a unique issue, unique to our time, and just the ever-changing landscape of technology and artificial intelligence. And but I love that we just boil it back down to what is the goal?
Yeah.
What are we here to serve? And it's maybe not to just get a result, but to build people who are capable of following a process and being driven in that process. What are some things we can look for? This summer as we close the chapter of 24-25.
Right.
We spent a lot of time talking with staff this year about our ideal graduate profile. I would love to maybe move into talking with a lot more with our students.
Yeah.
We had a couple episodes where we sat down with students, our student focus group, and kind of talked through the model. And what I loved hearing from them was, even though that's not something we've done this year where we've sat down and said, hey, this is what we want you to become, they understood the characteristics, and they could attach them to situations that they're seeing in the classroom, on the field, with their interactions with staff and teachers and coaches. And so what's the next step, I would say, for I would ask for Midland Christian in this journey?
Yeah, so, my primary work is with our principals and department heads, and so I spend more time in that space than with anyone else in the organization. Although I would love just to be able to hang out with students all day, because that's where I really draw a lot of my life and a lot of my strength from. But in those conversational spaces with our principals and with our department heads, and of course also I spend lots of time with our board, we are continuing to talk about how do we drive this down into the organization. So we keep speaking the language of living for God, loving like Jesus, and learning for life. And we're going to beat that drum, until I have my last few moments on the scene here, whenever that is. And I want us to be sure that we are mission driven and mission led. They're not just words on a page. We want those to translate into our heads and into our hearts. And then the care component that you mentioned, our ideal graduate characteristics of being Christ-like, of being academically prepared, about relationships with the Lord, with His Word, with one another, and then being emotionally intelligent. So that goes into lesson planning and design. It goes into our scope and sequence. Very early last year, even in service, we laid out our pathway for curriculum design and delivery, and integrated into that process is the language of mission and the language of ideal graduate profile, which we would say would be our mission language. And so we're going to continue to do that, our training, our in-service, already things that we've planned, already organizations that we've contracted with for in-service training next year is about focusing on making sure we push this all the way down into the classroom level, make sure we push it down into what we're doing on the field or in the area of fine arts. And so I'm going to continue to beat that drum and going to continue to push that forward. We're fortunate in, just the way that the Lord has structured all of this and how all these puzzle pieces are coming together, that next year also happens to be an accreditation year for Midland Christian School. So as a member of the National Christian School Association, we will have those representatives on campus in March next year. We've got a lot of pre-work to do leading up to their on-site visit, and there'll be some post-work that'll be involved there as well. But that just raises the bar on the importance of making sure that we're integrating even more deeply these parts of our DNA that we've already got rolling forward. So it's a very exciting time for Midland Christian School. And, I'm 2.5 years on staff now, and so I've been here long enough to really start to connect the dots, to really start to put pieces of the puzzle together. And the staff that we've put together, I'm really, really excited about some of the changes that we've made. The reason every change that we've made, every single one, the reason behind all of them is because they align with our mission and they help that mission emerge even more as we live into the future.
What are some things that we can expect over the summer as we prepare for that accreditation year?
Yeah.
And I think there's probably a period where we all just need to take a nap.
Right.
And take
Yes.
some time
Yes.
to evaluate this last year.
Yeah.
But it won't be too long before, there's people moving around in camps,
Right.
and the band will be marching and preparing
Yes.
for the fall and all of those things. So as we take a break to rest for a minute, what are some things we can look forward to over the summer as we prepare for next year?
Right. Well, after graduation, I do hope everyone takes a really, really good nap. It's probably going to be, it's probably fairly short-lived, but because the life of school goes on. I mean, the summer does give us an opportunity to catch our breath, but man, we're going to be moving forward at a very, very rapid pace quickly. One of the things that we are in the process of creating that I can't wait to roll this out. I'm hoping and praying it's going to be well received, but we are creating a curriculum for basically the entire Midland Christian family. So we specifically want to encourage moms and dads to work through this curriculum with their children, and it's called Partnering with Purpose. And so we will be starting the series out by going back to the basics. We are Midland Christian School. So what does the Christian part of that mean? And it's okay that we may have some folks who are part of the Midland Christian family that perhaps have never given their lives to Jesus, and they would not call themselves disciples of Jesus. And that's not something that we try to make people do. We want folks to fall in love with Jesus because they get to a place where they realize how much Jesus loves them. But if we can be instruments in that journey, we want to be. And so being able to explain, hey, this is the why behind our what. And folks may think some of the decisions we make are a little strange. Well, that's odd. Why would you do that? Why would you be about that? And so we'll dive into that. We'll also dive into, hey, what happens if there's a broken expectation with a teacher? What happens if you feel like your child is not getting the playing time he or she deserves? What happens if your child is disciplined? What is your emotional response if you get a letter, either via email or in your child's backpack that says we need to set up a meeting because? So again, it kind of ties back to our emotional intelligence conversation. We want to do everything we can to put tools in the toolboxes of our parents and our faculty and our staff, and really anyone who would consider themselves a key stakeholder of Midland Christian School, to be able to understand, hey, this is what we're about, and hey, as you're part of this family, these are our expectations of you as well. And when we find ourselves not on the same page, there actually is an awesome opportunity that God gives us in those seasons to mutually grow and put our students in a place where they can thrive. And I'm gonna guess here, and I think this is a guess that I believe most everybody would say, yeah, I could actually get behind that. Let's call it a hunch, not a guess.
Okay.
My hunch is, at the end of the day, that's actually what everybody wants. They want our students to thrive. Your idea of how we get there and my idea of how we get there may not necessarily be the same, but if we're willing to at least sit down and have a conversation about it versus just sitting back at a distance and throwing verbal hand grenades at one another, then I think we can model for our students, that's the way. That's the way we should all be having conversations. That's how we show to our students and to future generations that God calls us as followers of Jesus, or even those who are supporting those who are followers of Jesus. That's how we do business together. That's how we work together, live together, grow together.
You know, we are called to be a peculiar people.
Yes.
And I can think of some on campus that embody that more than others.
Right.
Maybe some colleagues or students.
Right.
But no, in all seriousness, that what an appealing, different people we could be if we all walk in harmony.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to moving through that program and that series, and just what the Lord has in store for the summer as we ramp up for another great school year.
Yeah.
But Dr. Anderson, thank you for all of your work in leading our campus in 2024-25, and we look forward to just what is in the future for Midland Christian School as we rest for a moment.
Yes.
And then ramp back up for another school year.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trent. Appreciate it so much.